Another question.
Quale? As you have a long experience, can you perhaps give us some excellent example of learning contract?
Oh my. Yes, I probably can give you a number of illustrations of good learning contracts. I don't know whether you have access to the book Self-Directed Learning, A Guide for Learners and Teachers by Malcolm Knowles.
Our professor has, so she will give us the the book.
Well, okay, since that's the case, in the middle of that book is a learning contract that Malcolm provided for becoming self-directed in our learning. And that basically is the first learning contract that I had ever seen, and it is still very valid and a good one.
It's the first learning contract of Malcolm, and it's also so the same contract they are using, and it's really very interesting, I think.
They're using it, you say?
They're using the original contract of Malcolm.
How about that?
These guys, yeah.
So you're in contact with the real experts.
The
Learning
real
contract.
Sure. When we do a test, we always choose the hardest thing, not the easiest one.
But you know, as you look at that and you go through that, that's quite extensive.
Yeah.
Because everything that he has in that learning contract basically is encompassed in that book. And if you go through that learning contract and thoroughly go through it, you will have an exposure to engagement in self-directed learning. That's what my experience was. I used that, I think I'm going to make a comment. You know that book is still one of his best-selling books? Printed and published originally in 1975, and that's almost 40 years ago. Never been revised, but still a pretty good standard. Okay? Now, I have done numerous learning contracts over the years. Let me just give you an illustration that a learning contract doesn't have to be terribly complicated. It can be very direct, but nevertheless very beneficial. When I was preparing as a continuing education specialist in Extension to change jobs and to become a professor of adult education, I asked one of my friends at the University of Nebraska, I said to him, Wes, what suggestion do you have for me as I'm going to go and be a professor of adult education at the University of Missouri, St. Louis? And he said to me, John, I have one comment to make to you. I have one suggestion. I said, what is that? He said, be available to students. And I made that my learning contract. ever since. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means to be available to students or be available to learners? That means listening to them. That means hearing what their questions are. That means inquiring into what they mean by what they're saying. That means probing them for clarification. It means seeking to help them apply their learning to their life in various aspects. And since I went to the University of Missouri, St. Louis in 1983, it's nearly 30 years that I've been involved in being a professor. And that's still my major learning contract. Pretty simple, isn't it? But very direct. And I guess that's why, or that's part of why, at my age, I could have retired a number of years ago, and I've retired 3 times, I might add, but I still am working, and I'm working with Andragogy students or with adult learners, primarily because I love it. I love being available to students and to learners, because I'm a continuous learner myself. The question I would ask for you to think about, not necessarily answer right now, what do you want your learning contract to be? Last week, when I was with my students in the class, we got to talking about I did one of 50 short autobiographies that 50 different professors were asked to do for a book, and the central idea of that autobiography was that I heard somebody say one time that we allow ourselves to get used by an idea in our life. And I ask myself somewhere along the way, what idea am I going to allow myself to be used by? And it happened to be Andragogy. That's why I'm still involved in it. That's why I'm still researching in it. That's why I'm still excited about it. That's why I'm still involved in this kind of stuff. And I love having one of your colleagues with me. Okay? It's a special privilege for me to have Mario with me for 6 months, that we can learn together, mutually. And of course, it was a special privilege to have Monica in our home in September of 2011, when she came to the conference and presented a paper at our conference at Lindenwood University.
Thank you.
Absolutely.